What if the people who understand you best are the most dangerous? Evolution didn't design empathy to make us kind. It designed it to make us effective. But every tool that powerful can be turned into a weapon. 1 in 5 people with dark traits also scored high on empathy. They can read your emotions perfectly. They just don't give a damn. Psychologists call them dark empaths. Every 5 people you meet, 1 could fit this profile. In this episode, we're diving into one of the strangest contradictions in human nature, where empathy, the force that bonds us, becomes the very thing that breaks us. My name is Oscar Emerson. Welcome to The Opening. So, what exactly is a dark empath? Are they just another kind of psychopath? What's really happening inside their brains? And how can you recognize one before they recognize you? Think about the people in your life right now, the ones who listen closely, who seem to understand you best. Who might be the one? That's what we're about to uncover. Most people think empathy is a feeling. It's not. Empathy is a prediction machine, and your brain's been running it since before you could walk. Your brain is constantly scanning faces, voices, body language, processing thousands of tiny signals every second. Pupil dilation, micro expressions that last 1/10 of a second, the exact pitch of someone's voice when they say, "I'm fine." And from all that data, your brain does 2 things. First, you read their mind. Not literally, but close. You predict what they're about to do, what they want, what they're hiding. That's cognitive empathy. Second, you absorb their emotions. Like a yawn or someone tears up and your chest tightens. Someone's anxious and suddenly you feel it too. You didn't decide that. Your nervous system did. That's affective empathy, emotional contagion you can't control. Together, these 2 systems are one of the most powerful tools evolution ever created. Because in a world where survival meant cooperation, the people who could read emotions had a massive advantage. They knew who to trust, who would betray them, and how to build alliances that lasted. That ability turned small bands of primates into tribes, tribes into civilizations. We didn't dominate this planet because we were the strongest or the fastest. We dominated because empathy let us cooperate at a scale no other species could match. Now, you'd think a tool that built civilizations would always be used for good. But empathy is just a tool, and tools are morally neutral. A knife can cut food or cut throats. Fire can warm your home or burn it down. And we're not all wired the same. Empathy exists on a spectrum. And where you land is baked into your brain from birth. Some people's brains barely register others' emotions. Others feel them so intensely it's overwhelming. Most of us land probably somewhere in the middle. Neuroscientist Abigail Marsh spent years mapping this empathy spectrum. On one end, she studied extraordinary altruists, people who donated kidneys to complete strangers. When their brains were scanned while viewing others in distress, their amygdalae, an area of your brain responsible for emotional processing, lit up intensely. They saw suffering and had to do something about it. On the opposite end, psychopaths. Their amygdalae barely responded at all. Marsh calls this fear blindness. They see the emotion, but the signal doesn't register. They watch you suffer and feel nothing. Most of us sit somewhere in the middle. We feel empathy, we mirror emotions, but not as intensely as those extremes. Dark empaths, though, they're actually closer to the altruists. High empathy. They feel what you feel. Their brains light up when they see your distress. The difference is what happens next. Altruists feel your pain and want to heal it. Dark empaths feel your pain and see how to use it. Same capacity, opposite intent. But before we talk about how empathy gets weaponized, we need to understand what happens when it's not there at all. When the system is broken from the start. When someone's brain looks at your fear, your pain, your desperation, and feels nothing. The emotional signal just doesn't register. What does that look like in a real person? Psychopaths. And the only way to spot a dark empath is to first understand what a psychopath looks like. Because they're scarily similar on the surface, but dangerously different underneath. When you hear the word psychopath, your mind probably jumps straight to serial killers. Hannibal Lecter, Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer. But most psychopaths aren't like that. They're far more common and much more ordinary than you'd expect. In fact, you could be one and not even know it. That's exactly what happened to neuroscientist James Fallon. He spent 3 decades scanning the brains of violent criminals, murderers mostly, and he kept seeing the same strange pattern. 2 brain regions, the orbital cortex and the amygdala, barely lit up. Those are the areas tied to emotion and empathy. Then one day, while reviewing family brain scans for an Alzheimer's study, Fallon spotted one that matched the psychopath pattern exactly. It was his own. Here was a respected scientist, husband, father, yet his brain looked like that of a killer. But he'd never hurt anyone. So what made him different? He dug into his family history. Turns out, his grandfather had murdered his own mother. A cousin was also a killer. The genetic predisposition was there, clear as day. But Fallon's upbringing was the opposite of violent. Stable home, loving parents, no trauma. Nature had loaded the gun, but nurture never pulled the trigger. So Fallon did what any scientist would do. He studied himself. Turns out he was impulsive, always seeking thrills, never really sentimental. He didn't form deep connections with people, but he'd learned how to fake it well enough that no one noticed. He's mastered what he calls performing empathy. What to say, when to nod, how to sound concerned. But inside, he doesn't actually feel it. When psychopaths see someone in pain, their amygdala barely reacts. That automatic, "I feel your hurt" signal most of us experience, it doesn't happen. Same with fear. You see terror on someone's face, your amygdala mirrors it, your body tenses, you back off. The signal says, danger. Psychopaths miss it. Fear is one of humanity's oldest warnings, and their brains don't pick it up. So someone like Fallon might appear charismatic and successful, but emotionally, something's off. He's learned to perform empathy, but he can't actually feel when he's getting it wrong. That's why psychopaths often push too hard or misjudge the moment. They're guessing. Think of it like this. A psychopath is playing piano without hearing the music. They've memorized which keys to press, but they can't tell if it sounds right. A dark empath? They hear every note. They know exactly which chord will make you trust them, and exactly which one will break you. And here's what makes them so dangerous. Psychologist Nadia Haim tested nearly 1,000 people and found that those high in both empathy and dark traits were actually more aggressive than psychopaths alone. People who feel your emotions, yet still choose to harm you, might be the most dangerous of all, because you'll never see them coming. These aren't rare cases. They're not serial killers. They're people you interact with every day, successful, charming, emotionally intelligent. You might know one. You might be dating one. You might even be one. So how do you know? There's a simple test that reveals who they really are. Set a small boundary, then watch what happens. You can just say, "I can't make it tonight. I need some space this week." Or maybe, "I'm not comfortable with that." Because dark empaths need access to your time, energy, decisions. A boundary removes that access. And that's when the mask slips. A healthy person will respect it. They might be disappointed, but they adapt. They don't make your boundary about them. But a dark empath? They apply pressure, not the obvious kind. No yelling, no aggression. It's more subtle than that. Sometimes it's guilt. They might say, "Oh, okay. I mean, after everything I've done for you, but sure." Suddenly your no is something you have to pay back. Sometimes it's withdrawal. You'll hear, "No worries. I'll just handle it alone, like always." Now suddenly you're the person who abandons people. Or it's fake concern. "Are you okay? You've been really distant lately. I'm worried about you." Your need for space just became evidence something's wrong with you. Notice the pattern? You set a boundary. Somehow you're now the problem. And you're already explaining yourself, apologizing for having needs. And once you spot it once, you'll understand how they operate. You'll start noticing their other moves. Take their attention, for instance. Think about the past few weeks. Before you set that boundary, they were texting all the time, checking in, acting warm and engaged. But afterward, it's like a switch flipped. Suddenly the messages are short, dry. Just one word answers. They're always too busy. because the attention was never connection, it was conditional. Psychologists call this intermittent reinforcement, the same mechanism that makes gambling addictive. You get rewarded for compliance, punished for resistance. Then there's the mirroring. Have they ever shared something truly vulnerable with you? Probably not. But they know everything about you, don't they? Your stories, your fears, the way you laugh. That's them becoming whoever you needed them to be while collecting data on what makes you trust, open up, become vulnerable. Pay attention to what happens when you open up. You're upset about something, and they nod along, saying, "Wow, that sounds really tough." But before you can even breathe, they jump straight to, "You know what you should do." A real friend would just sit with you in that moment, let you feel what you're feeling. But they don't. They use every bit of vulnerability as a chance to step in and play the expert. And before you know it, you're not even trusting your own perspective. You're seeing everything through theirs. And notice how they talk about other people. It might sound harmless. Something like, "I'm a bit worried about Sarah. Have you noticed she's been acting off lately?" On the surface, it sounds like concern. But there's a pattern. They're always pointing out little problems with others, planting tiny seeds of doubt. They start private conversations that subtly leave someone out. And just like that, they stay right at the center, quietly pulling the strings over who's connected and who isn't. These patterns were always there. The boundary just gave you the framework to see them. Boundaries don't just help you identify dark empaths. They stop the manipulation from working. Because dark empaths need your flexibility, your guilt, your fear of conflict. But when you hold a boundary, you're sending a different message. My needs aren't negotiable, and they don't know how to work with that. Their entire approach depends on you doubting yourself, explaining yourself, absorbing guilt that isn't yours. When you stop doing those things, the manipulation can't land. Now, that doesn't mean you should start doubting everyone who shows empathy. Most people who understand you genuinely care. But it's worth noticing the difference between someone who wants to connect with you and someone who's studying you just to find your weak spots. Research by Haim, Keel, Fallon, and others shows that our minds aren't wired to make us villains or heroes. We live on a spectrum of ability and choice. Someone with a psychopathic brain might devote their life to science. Someone deeply empathetic might still choose to manipulate. And most of us fall somewhere in between, trying, failing, and learning as we go. What truly reveals a person's character isn't whether they have empathy, but how they use it in the small choices they make, because empathy is power. The ability to read feelings, predict behavior, and sense what someone fears or needs gives us immense influence. And like all power, what matters is how it's used. So when someone seems to understand you perfectly, pause and check in with yourself. Do I feel supported, or steered, seen, or studied, connected, or controlled? That small difference could mean everything. between someone who enriches your life and someone who tries to shape it, empathy is the bridge between minds. And what crosses it, kindness or control, is always a choice. Since you've made it this far, take a few more moments to reflect on the ideas we've explored in this episode. Empathy wasn't designed to make us kind. It was designed to make us effective, to make us survive. Every powerful tool, including empathy, can be turned into a weapon. One in 5 people with dark personality traits also score high on empathy. They're called dark empaths. A dark empath feels your pain, but sees it as leverage, not a call to help. Psychopaths can fake empathy, but dark empaths feel emotions and still choose to manipulate. The difference between altruism and harm is intent, not capacity for empathy. To expose a dark empath, set a boundary. They'll show their true nature when access is denied. Empathy is power. What defines us is how we use it to connect or to control. When someone seems to understand you perfectly, ask yourself, do I feel seen or studied? If empathy connects our minds, love locks them together. But what if that lock is just chemistry? Dopamine, oxytocin, and a few neural tricks disguised as destiny. And what does that mean for our relationships? find out in this video. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the opening on YouTube or on Spotify. And as always, let me know in the comments what I should talk about next.